Okay, so we've got this like mountain of reports and articles here all about digital skills in Europe. It seems like you're really trying to get a grasp on the whole situation, especially with AI changing things for everyone, not just for the tech people. Like I even saw something the other day about AI potentially changing how medical diagnoses are done.
Yeah, it is fascinating. What we're seeing now is that it's not just about the really technical things anymore. It's about everything. It's about knowing how to use like basic online tools all the way to like navigating AI.
Mm.
And also all while staying safe online and knowing what's going on. It really is a whole new world out there.
It really is. And like with Europe aiming to be this digital powerhouse, it seems like having people with strong digital skills is like even more important than ever. So like where do things stand right now? Like what's the current situation?
Well, the reports are saying that basic digital skills are going up in Europe. I think they're supposed to reach like 70% in 2024. But the EU wants to hit 80% by 2030, which is really ambitious. But some projections are saying that we might not get there. We might only reach around like 59.8% by then.
Huh.
So there's definitely some work that needs to be done.
Hmm. So even though things are going in the right direction, there's still a gap between where we are now and where we want to be. But getting to those targets is only part of the story, right? It's not just about getting everyone online. It's about what people can actually do online, the kinds of skills people need. Are those changing too?
Oh, absolutely. One really interesting thing is how digital skills are spread out across Europe. Some countries are actually really far ahead. For example, in 2023, the Netherlands and Finland already had 83 and 82% of their populations digitally skilled, which is amazing.
Wow, yeah, that's really impressive. I wonder what they're doing that's different.
Well, it seems like they've implemented some really targeted programs and invested heavily in digital infrastructure and education.
Hmm.
But then you have countries like Romania and Bulgaria, they're lagging behind, like way behind at 28 and
Oh,
36%.
yeah.
This really shows that there needs to be different strategies for different regions within the EU. There's no like one solution that fits all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But let's like zoom in a little bit. What about within those countries? Do things like age or education or where you live, do those things play a role in like who has these skills?
Oh yeah, they're super important. I mean, you, you probably won't be surprised to hear that younger people tend to be more digitally savvy. But even then, one statistic that really surprised me was that 30% of 16 to 24-year-olds still lacked basic digital skills in 2024.
Oh, wow. I actually wouldn't have expected that. I guess just because you grew up with technology doesn't automatically mean that you're digitally skilled.
Exactly. Digital skills are not just about like knowing how to use tech,
Yeah.
It's about education. It's about having access.
Hmm.
And it's about constantly learning. And this is for everyone, not just young people.
Right.
And actually, while we're talking about this gap, it's important to mention that there's a huge shortage of what they call ICT specialists, the people who can like build and maintain, the digital world.
You mean the people who can actually build the systems, like write the code that makes everything work?
Right, yeah.
So how bad is the shortage?
It's pretty bad. The EU wants to have 20 million employed ICT specialists by 2030, but it looks like we'll only reach around 12 million.
Ooh, so that's a gap of 8 million.
It's a big gap, yeah. Makes you wonder if those ambitious digital goals are actually possible.
Yeah. And that's a massive gap, especially when you consider that AI is already changing the types of digital skills needed. Like, it feels like we're right on the edge of this huge shift. What does that mean for people who aren't necessarily tech savvy?
Well, AI is definitely a game changer. It is having a big impact on digital skills. I think what's most interesting is that AI literacy is becoming essential for everyone, not just for the people who are like building the AI systems.
So what does it actually mean to be AI literate? Is it all about being able to code like those complex algorithms that people use to build things like ChatGPT and DALL-E? I saw this video of DALL-E, and it can generate images just from descriptions. It was mind-blowing.
Well, the others are the highly technical skills.
Yeah.
DALL-E, for example, it uses a neural network,
Okay.
which is a type of AI that learns patterns from data. In DALL-E's case, that's from like tons and tons of images and their descriptions.
Oh, wow.
And that lets it create totally new images from scratch, just from the words you give it.
Yeah.
But for like most people, AI literacy is more about understanding how AI works, how to use AI tools, and how to think critically about the information that AI gives you.
So it's not about being a programmer. It's about being able to use AI in your work and life, I guess.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, especially with AI popping up everywhere. I even heard about a grocery store that uses AI to like personalize your shopping experience.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't just some trend. It's already happening. Like LinkedIn data shows an 80-fold increase in people adding AI skills to their profiles just in 2023. And the demand for those skills is skyrocketing across all sectors, not just tech. Projections say that by 2028, AI and machine learning skills will be the fifth most important for employers, up from 10th in 2023.
Wow, that's a big jump. It sounds like if you want to stay competitive in the job market, you really need at least some understanding of AI. But with technology changing so fast, how can people actually keep up? It seems like anything you learn today could be like outdated tomorrow.
Yeah, and that brings us to why lifelong learning is more important now than ever.
But what does lifelong learning really look like in, today's world? Are we talking about going back to university every couple of years?
Not necessarily. It's more about having this mindset of always learning and adapting. It could be taking online courses, going to workshops, or even just reading articles and staying updated on the latest developments.
So it's less about getting a degree and more about constantly updating what you know and picking up new skills along the way.
Exactly. And the good news is there are so many resources out there to help you do that. You have micro-credentials that offer like targeted learning for certain skills. There are tons of flexible online courses, and there are platforms like the European Digital Skills and Jobs platform. They all give you access to a ton of learning opportunities.
Okay, so there's hope for those of us who feel like we're constantly trying to catch up. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about how all this impacts the way we actually work. How are these digital skills, especially the AI ones, changing the work landscape?
That's where things get really interesting. We've seen some big changes in the past few years. First, there's the rise of remote work, which totally exploded during the pandemic, and that's created a need for people to have specific digital skills, especially around online communication and collaboration.
Right? Like using tools like Zoom or Slack and being able to, effectively communicate and work together online. But it's more than just using those tools, right? It's about managing projects remotely and building relationships virtually.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of working. And then we have automation, which is also changing things.
And that's being driven by AI, right? Is it as scary as some people make it sound? Are robots coming for our jobs?
I think it's more nuanced than that. Automation doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to be unemployed. Experts predict that by 2030, up to 27% of the work being done in Europe could be automated. But this means that while some jobs will disappear, new ones will emerge. And the key is to develop skills that work alongside machines, focusing on what humans are good at.
So it's about figuring out how to work with technology, not being afraid of it. But what are those uniquely human skills that we should be focusing on?
That brings us to something super important for the future of work: soft skills.
Ah, yes, the human touch. Tell me more.
Things like being adaptable, communication, problem solving, thinking critically, and being creative. These are becoming more and more important in the digital workplace.
So it's not just about what you know, it's about how you think and how you interact with others.
Exactly. Machines are good at processing data and doing tasks, but they can't replicate human intuition and empathy. And they can't think outside the box like humans can. Those are the skills that will make us stand out in the future.
This has been really fascinating, and it definitely gives me a lot to think about in terms of my own career and developing new skills. But before we go any further, can we zoom out for a second and talk about why these digital skills are so important for everyday life in Europe, not just for work?
That's a crucial point. Digital skills aren't just for tech professionals or people in specific industries. They're important for everyone. It doesn't matter your age, your job, or your background. It's about being able to participate in society.
So you're saying it's not just about getting a job or, moving up in your career. It's about being able to navigate the world around you.
Exactly. Think about how much we rely on digital tools for communicating, getting information, even participating in our communities. You need digital skills for all of that.
It's true. Everything's online now. You can't even pay your bills or book a doctor's appointment without some digital skills.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning. We haven't even talked about things like staying safe online, protecting your privacy, or knowing how to tell what information online is actually reliable.
Oh, that's a big one, especially with all the misinformation and fake news out there. It can be really hard to know what's real and what's not.
It's a huge problem. That's why digital literacy is so important. You need to be able to figure out if the sources you're looking at are credible. You have to know if they're biased and if they're giving you facts or fiction. It's like having a built-in BS detector for the internet.
I love that. We should make that a thing. Digital BS detectors for everyone. But seriously, that's such an important skill to have.
I totally agree. And that leads into another really important aspect of digital literacy, online safety and privacy.
Right, like knowing how to protect yourself from scams and phishing and all the other shady stuff that's out there online.
Exactly. It's about knowing how to use your data privacy settings, managing your online profiles, and being careful about what information you share. It's about being proactive, not reactive, when it comes to your digital security. Like being street smart, but for the internet.
Digital street smarts, we should definitely add that to our list of essential skills. But digital literacy isn't just about protecting yourself, it's also about being an active citizen.
That's right. Being able to access public services online, staying informed about what's happening in the world, participating in online discussions, and even voting electronically. These all require digital skills.
It's like being a digital citizen is becoming just as important as being a traditional citizen.
In a lot of ways, it is. The lines are getting blurry, and digital skills are essential for both.
Okay, so we've talked about the digital skills gap and how it's a challenge for Europe. What are some of the biggest things we need to overcome to close this gap?
There are a few key challenges. First, we have all these different skill levels across different age groups, education levels, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Bridging this, what they call a digital divide, is super important to make sure that everyone has equal access to the digital world.
It's about equity and inclusion. Everyone should have the chance to develop these skills no matter what their background is.
Exactly. And another big challenge is that there's often a mismatch between the skills people have and what employers are looking for. We need to make sure that education and training programs are actually teaching what the job market needs, especially in fields that are changing quickly, like AI. And we can't forget about brain drain.
Brain drain, what does that mean?
That's when really skilled professionals are lured away to other places that have better opportunities or pay more. Europe needs to figure out how to keep its talent, especially in those leading edge fields like AI, where everyone's competing for the same people.
So it's not just about developing skills, it's about making an environment where people can use their skills and they actually want to stay.
Exactly. But even though there are all these challenges, there are also huge opportunities. If we invest in digital skills training, promote lifelong learning, and create public-private partnerships, we can make a more digitally inclusive and competitive Europe. It really needs to be a team effort.
So there's hope for the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we need to keep investing, innovating, and making sure everyone has the chance to thrive in the digital age.
Well, this has been a fascinating dive into the digital skills landscape in Europe. We've covered a lot, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
It's definitely complex and constantly changing, but that's what makes it so interesting. The good news is there are so many resources and opportunities out there for anyone who wants to learn and adapt.
Right, but it's not just about listening and taking in all this information. It's about actually doing something with it.
Exactly, and that's what we'll focus on next. Before we get lost in all the information about digital skills, let's take a closer look at something crucial. Digital literacy for everyday life.
Okay, I like where this is going. We've talked about how these skills are important for work, but you're saying it goes beyond that. It affects how we, move through the world every day.
Exactly. Being digitally literate isn't just an option anymore. It's essential for navigating everyday life in Europe.
So what does that mean? What does digital literacy in everyday life actually look like?
Well, it starts with basic stuff like sending emails, browsing the internet safely, and managing digital documents. These might seem simple, but for a lot of people, they're still barriers. And it goes beyond those basics, like being able to find and evaluate information online.
Oh, that's a big one, especially with all that misinformation and fake news floating around. It can be tough to tell what's real and what's not.
It's a massive issue, which is why digital literacy is so important. You need to be able to critically assess the credibility of sources, identify bias, and distinguish fact from fiction. It's like having a built-in BS detector for the internet.
I love that. We should make that a thing. Digital BS detectors for everyone. But seriously, it's an important skill to have.
Totally agree. And it ties into another essential aspect of digital literacy, online safety and privacy.
Right, protecting yourself from scams and phishing attacks and all those nasty things lurking in the digital shadows.
Exactly. It's about understanding data privacy settings, managing your online profiles, and being cautious about what information you share. It's about being proactive, not reactive, when it comes to your digital security. Like being street smart, but for the internet.
Digital street smarts. We should definitely add that to our list of essential skills. But digital literacy isn't just about protecting yourself, it also plays a crucial role in active citizenship.
That's right. Being able to access online public services, stay informed about current events, participate in online discussions, and even vote electronically are all powered by digital skills.
It's like digital citizenship is becoming just as important as traditional citizenship.
In many ways it is. The lines are blurring, and digital skills are essential for both.
So we've talked about how important digital skills are, like everything from basic literacy to understanding AI. But it's easy to get lost in like the big picture stuff. I think for our listeners, it would be helpful to see how this actually plays out in their daily lives. What are some ways someone might use these skills outside of work?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's about giving people the tools to be confident and safe online. Imagine you're online trying to research something about your health. You're going to see a ton of information, but how do you know what's actually reliable? That's where your digital BS detector comes in.
Right.
You can look at different sources and see which ones are actually giving evidence-based information. You can even use AI tools to check what you're reading and make sure it's accurate.
So it's like instead of just believing everything you see online, you're taking charge of the information you're getting.
Exactly. Or let's say you're managing your money online, like using a banking app or a budgeting tool. You need to know how to stay safe online and how to protect your personal information. And you need to be able to spot those phishing attempts.
Right. So those skills can actually help you avoid scams and fraud.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole social aspect of being online. Think about connecting with family and friends, being part of online communities, or even having discussions about politics on social media. You need digital skills for all of that.
Yeah.
From basic communication to understanding how these algorithms and filter bubbles work and how they can actually shape what you see online.
So it's not just about reading stuff or doing tasks online. It's about actually being a part of the online world and connecting with people.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the creative side of digital skills. Think about things like using photo editing software to make your photos look better, creating videos to share, or even learning how to code so you can build your own website.
It sounds like there are endless possibilities.
There really are. And the best part is you can learn a lot of these skills for free or really cheap. There are tons of resources, tutorials, and online communities that can help you learn.
So it's about taking that first step and being open to trying new things.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it's a journey, not like a destination. The internet is always changing, so you have to be curious and willing to adapt.
I like that. It's about embracing that idea of lifelong learning and always looking for new things to learn and new skills to pick up.
That's the spirit. Now, going back to those challenges we talked about earlier, how can we make sure that everyone has the chance to develop these essential digital skills?
That's the big question, right? Where do we even start to fix something that complicated?
One really important place to start is addressing what they call the digital divide. We need to make sure that everyone has access to the internet that they can afford, and devices and training. This means investing in infrastructure, especially in places that are more rural. And we have to make sure we're helping the groups that are often left behind, like older people or people with disabilities.
So it's about making sure that everyone has an equal chance to be a part of the digital world.
Exactly. And it's not just about access, it's about affordability too. The cost of the internet and devices can be a big problem for some people.
That's true. It's not enough to just have the technology out there. It has to be something that everyone can afford, no matter where they live or how much money they make.
Absolutely. And we also need to make sure that the training we're giving people is actually relevant and interesting. It's not just about teaching them how to use a specific program. It's about giving them the skills they need to be smart and safe online.
So we're talking about teaching people how to think critically about what they see online, how to avoid scams, and how to be good digital citizens.
Exactly. And we need to start teaching this stuff early. Making digital literacy part of school curriculums is really important for making sure that kids growing up today are ready for the digital world.
It's about giving them the skills they'll need to succeed in a world that's, becoming more and more digital.
Exactly. But it's not just about kids. It's about making sure there are chances for people of all ages to learn. We need to create training programs that are flexible and accessible, and that work for people with different learning styles and needs.
And these programs need to change as technology changes, right?
Absolutely. We have to move away from that old way of thinking that you only need to learn something once. The digital world is all about adapting, and always learning new things.
So we need to be okay with always learning new things and picking up new skills throughout our lives.
That's it. And this is where those public-private partnerships are so important. Businesses can offer their employees training opportunities and help them keep learning.
Right. It's about understanding that when you invest in your employees' skills, it's not just good for them, it's good for the company too.
Exactly. And governments can give businesses reasons to do this, and they can also invest in programs that help close the skills gap and promote digital inclusion.
So it's about everyone working together to make sure everyone has the chance to learn digital skills.
It's a group effort. We all have to do our part. We need to work together to create a world where everyone has the chance to learn and be a part of the digital world.
But it's not just about governments and businesses, right?
No.
Individuals can do things too.
Absolutely. We can all play a role. We can encourage our families and friends to learn digital skills. We can volunteer to teach classes. We can even talk to our leaders about supporting policies that promote digital inclusion.
So it's about taking action, no matter how big or small.
Yeah, anything helps. And remember, when you learn digital skills, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping to create a society where everyone has the tools to succeed online.
That's a really powerful message. So we've talked about the big picture, the problems, and the solutions. Now it's time to bring it back to our listeners and talk about what they can actually do.
You're right. Let's give our listeners the tools they need to take charge of their own digital journey.
Okay, so for you listening, we've shown you the map, but now it's your turn to explore.
What are you curious about? What skills do you want to learn? What can you do today to start feeling more confident and comfortable online?
It's cool to think about all the things you can do, but I know it can also feel a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
A good place to start is to figure out where you are right now. Like, think about the digital skills you already have. What are you good at? Where do you feel confident?
Yeah, like maybe you're really good at using social media, but you don't really know much about online security settings. Or maybe you're great at researching things online, but you want to learn more about using AI tools for creative stuff.
Exactly. Once you know what you're good at and what you need to work on, you can start looking for resources and opportunities that'll help you reach your goals. And remember, you don't have to do this all by yourself. There are so many resources out there that are free or really cheap.
Yeah, that's true. There are a ton of online courses and tutorials and even communities where you can connect with other people and learn from them. Are there any resources that you've seen that you think are especially helpful?
Oh, for sure. If you're interested in AI, there are platforms like Google AI Education and Elements of AI. They have some really great introductory courses. They explain those complicated concepts in a way that's easy to understand, even if you don't have a tech background.
That's awesome. I've heard good things about those. I've also heard good things about online learning platforms like Coursera and ADX. They have courses on all kinds of digital skills like coding and data analysis and digital marketing.
Yeah, those are really good options. And honestly, just exploring and experimenting is really valuable too. Like download a new app, try a different social media platform, or mess around with a free photo editing tool.
Yeah, it's like you were saying before, just be curious and playful. Don't be afraid to mess up and learn as you go.
Right. And as you start to feel more confident, think about sharing what you've learned with other people. Maybe you can help someone in your family set up their online banking or show a friend how to keep their information private on social media.
It's cool to be able to share what you've learned and help other people feel more comfortable online.
Totally. And when you do that, it kind of creates a ripple effect. And more people become digitally literate and confident.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into digital skills, I want to leave our listeners with this. You're not just someone who uses technology. You can actually shape your own experience with technology and help create a society where everyone is comfortable and confident online.
That's a great way to put it. What will you do with that power? What digital skills are you going to learn? What kind of impact are you going to make? I hope those are questions that you'll keep thinking about.
This has been a really insightful conversation. Thank you so much for helping us understand this.
It was my pleasure. I hope our listeners feel like they can take what they've learned and create their own path in this amazing digital world.